Hello everybody, welcome to the first video in my new office. Well, it's a temporary office. If you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, I just moved. So yeah, I mentioned that in my last video on my main channel, the one about my office tour. But yeah, so I was just watching David Watts's channel there, and he was doing a video about the coin cell replacement thing, and I did something similar to it that I just wanted to talk about. So this idea came for my PCB tree, or from my PCB tree, and I might have even actually got the idea from David, because he showed those discs on a post bag like maybe a year or two ago, so it might have even predated that. So thanks for the idea, David, if I did take it from you. Okay, so the PCB tree, which I don't have any assembled ones here, or at least I don't know where they are, has a coin cell like this. So this is my SAO stand, which is the same kind of idea, but just plugs in there. But so the PCB tree stands up like this, and you plug your coin cell in there, so it's kind of used as a kickstand. And the PCB tree runs for a couple of days off a coin cell, but I wanted to provide a way of you being able to power it using, something like a wall wart or something. So if you wanted to leave it on over Christmas, you didn't need to worry about, batteries or whatever. So coin cells only offer 3 volts or max 3 volts, but the PCB tree itself can run up to like 5.5 volts or something. It's in a tiny 13, and they have a fairly variable like voltage range that they can accept. So you could just plug 5 volts into the VCC of the tree and it would work fine. So like what I wanted to do was provide a way that people could use. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so where was I exactly? So I think it was that I wanted to provide a way that people could use either coin cell or USB power, and it was up to them whether they wanted to use it. So there would be a problem if you just soldered like 2 VCC and ground like a USB header, because then if you had the battery plugged in as well, then that's bad. So my first thought was this thing, which is just a regular micro USB breakout, and I taped over the D plus and D minus pins, and I soldered a bit of wire to ground and just looped it back around, and same with VCC. And this was roughly the right thickness to just be able to plug in, and this actually worked, and worked surprisingly well, but you couldn't sell this, right? Like, this would be ridiculous. So yeah, so I wanted to try make a way of doing this, but a little bit better. So I designed up a couple of PCBs and ordered them from Osh Park. So it's a top PCB and a bottom PCB. So this is like that. And as you can see, there's a minus on the top and a plus on the bottom, and then you solder them together. So one of these, I think it's these two maybe, or even just one of them, I'm not sure. Yeah, these two bring the plus from the micro USB down to the bottom, and the minus or the ground just goes straight up. And yeah, so there's a fault on these boards where I made the plus and minus out of a via, which is a problem when the two of them touch off each other. So like on this one here, there's a little bit of insulating tape over the plus. So yeah, like you can see, it's pretty basic how it works. It just connects what it needs to connect down, and yeah, so that also works. It's a little bit hard to push in, but it does, or at least it used to. Yeah, there, it's in. So it's a little bit hard to push in, but it works. And works perfectly fine. But I couldn't order them off Ashpark if I wanted to sell them because it just doesn't make sense for me to buy off Ashpark to sell things. So I had to order them off JLC. So here we have a bunch of them. 1 second. So that was version 1. Version 2 was from JLC. So again, 2 different boards, but you might notice there is now a change, and this was for manufacturing reasons, basically, that I moved away from the castellated edge here and just did internal holes. And the reason I did that was purely from a price point of view. Castellated holes off JLC are really expensive, like they're 20 or 30 euro, which maybe is okay, but like I wanted to make these like cheap, like $4 or $5. I can't remember exactly what I ended up charging for them, but I wanted to make them really cheap. So I made these ones. So I just moved the hole in a little bit, and so this is an assembled version of it, and it worked perfectly fine. These aren't vias anymore, they're just drills. And again, same thing, a little bit hard to push in, but it works, no problem. So one thing I should mention, that like David was doing it for a coin cell that like slots in, you know, on top or whatever. These are really designed for this kind of side mounted one. Like there's no reason why you couldn't take the same principle, but most of the flat ones that you push in have the plus on the top, and this has the USB header on the minus side because it makes the most sense from this standing up point of view, that you'd have the USB up on top. But you could take the same idea if you wanted to do it. So that was fine, version 2. There's a problem with this though. It's way too hard to assemble them and make them nice. So like you break off all your mouse bites and things, and you're left with like a really horrible finish around the edge. And to make it, you know, small enough that it'll fit into this coin cell holder as well, I had to, after assembling them, I had to like take them to a sanding wheel and just like sand them all down. So yeah, bit of pain. So then it comes to version 3. Some people would have gotten those circular ones, but then version 3, let me show you. So there is one side of version 3, and there is the other side. And you will notice that they aren't circular anymore. The circular part was not important for my design. Okay, so here is a couple of assembled ones. This one is pretty ugly. Yeah, this one's a bit better. Yeah, so the big positive of this was I could use V-score, right? So there's no tidying them up afterwards, or there doesn't need to be as big of a deal tidying them up afterwards because it's all flat edges. You can just, you know, break them apart. There you go. Do the same with this one, and all good. I did try assembling them like all together like this, and it makes them really difficult to break apart because I have them literally all together, you know, so both sides. So you're cutting through 2 sets of PCBs at the moment because they're all soldered together. So I wouldn't advise that part. But it's much easier to plug in because you're not fighting against these retention things anymore. You can just slot it in. Like they're thick enough that it doesn't matter. I don't know if I've mentioned it up to this point, but they're 2 1.6 millimeter PCBs, so that gives you 3.2 millimeters, so the size of a coin cell. and you know, it just connects the appropriate things again. So again, this one would be even less suitable for the coin cells that you just drop in from the top. But yeah, so yeah, I thought that was a little bit interesting in terms of what David was talking about, how we went from this to this to this. Well, it'd be helpful if I showed you how we went from this to this to this to this, all in terms of trying to make it easier or cheaper or more efficient to manufacture. Yeah, so it actually ends up working quite well. So I was happy enough with it. The designs for these are available, or at least if they're not available, you are welcome to them. I'll make them available. So yeah, thought that might be interesting to share, and thanks. Bye bye.